Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Always Almost There, a Goose podcast series on We Move Through Stormy Weather. My name's Brian, aka Jive Goose.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Neal.
And I'm Danny.
The four of us are here today to talk about Goose's arena debut for the 8th annual Goosemas concert on February 26, 2022.
So this was an incredibly special night for the band and audience alike. But before we go into the show breakdown, I think we need to address the popped cherry in the room. This was our good buddy Ryan Storm's very first Goose show. So Ryan, why don't you take us through it?
Well, it was an absolutely incredible night. I was lucky enough to rage the show on the floor, Peter side, with our good friend Neal Laundry here. And thank you to Neal, who was wearing his Gong Gang hat, which enabled me to find myself in the webcast yesterday.
Gong Gang.
But yeah, it was an absolutely incredible experience, finally being able to experience live what I have been listening to so much for the last 2 years. It's just over 2 years to the day when I first heard that hot tea from 125.20 and was hooked. And the rest, as they say, is history. So I'm ready to go super in depth on this show. This absolutely incredible night. I think before we talk about the show, I want to talk a little bit about the experience at Mohegan Sun itself. Going in, obviously, I haven't seen Goose in a theater or a smaller venue yet, like a lot of other people have. So I don't have a frame of reference on how their sound translated to the arena from that smaller venue. I will have a better idea tomorrow night. I'm coming to you live from Washington, D.C. right now. Looking forward to the 2-night run at the 930 Club this week. But to me, the sound in Mohegan I had heard wasn't very good, but from where my vantage point was on the floor, it sounded fantastic. I think, what stuck out to me all night, I think Neal will agree, Ben Atkin. It was his night. He shined constantly. He got engaged. Like, it was the whole 9 yards. And that was just incredible. The energy in the room was off the charts, and we'll talk more about it in specific songs. But I had a smile on my face the whole night. My legs were so sore after the show from just dancing really hard, and it was just incredible. What do you guys, Neal, what did you think of the venue?
It's my second time at that venue seeing this kind of show. I was there for Fish in 2019. Quick hits on like what I thought about like this particular show. It was loud. It was very, very loud inside that venue. And the low end was coming through really loudly all night. And it actually, I think, increased in volume as the night went on, which was pretty interesting. Obviously peaking in the third set where it was, pretty outrageous, which we'll get into. But yeah, that was my first Arena Goose show, obviously, because it was everybody's first Arena Goose show. And I don't know what my number of shows is at, but it's like somewhere in the 20 range. But it's my first time experiencing anything like that, and it was a sight to behold.
Yeah, and B and D, you guys were both webcasting from home. I know B, you were webcasting with our good friend Kev, who is unfortunately not able to join us for this episode, but he will be back for the next one. But what did you guys, as the show began, just watching it on the webcast, not talking about specific songs yet, but just how the energy in the room came through on the webcast?
Yeah, I mean, I from the moment that they brought the stream live, just the shot, of the crowd of the stage, you could tell that it was pretty big arena, definitely much bigger in size. I mean, Brian and I and Kevin as well, we were out at Mission Ballroom, which was 4,000 or so, I think, and that felt big. But this venue looked bigger. Lights were huge. You could tell from the start, the rig was big, and we had seen a couple preview shots. And then of course, the grand piano on stage caught my eye. So I think, there was immediate excitement, as you guys have said, just for, the rescheduling, the delay that they had. Was this show going to happen? Of course, they put the date out right away, but I think, it was sort of, we were all unsure a little bit. And so it's been cool to see things kind of take a turn for the better coming off leg one. And yeah, really excited. I just had a great time. I can't wait to talk about the night. How about you, Brian?
Yeah. So the sound was great. The vibe definitely came through. Super just celebratory mood. Like you said, I was hanging with Kev, so we were having a blast. And yeah, it looked like a really, really fun night. I was jealous of both Ryan and Neal, and of course everyone else who was there. And I'm probably speaking for many others when I say that it was really a joy to witness via Twitter young Ryan attending his first Goose show. He was bursting. I think he cried a lot.
I didn't cry.
Definitely some tears.
I've got some notes. I've got some notes and video. Hey, actually, this is a good point to bring up because like people keep asking, like, why is it Ryan's first show?
Yes.
So Ryan, why was that your first show?
Well, if anybody didn't know by now, I'm Canadian, and I had the misfortune of discovering Goose about a month before the world shut down. And so all the shows that they've played since have been, across they were across a closed border for me. A couple of times I was tempted to do the 2-week quarantine that was in place at the time in order to see Goose. But, the only time they came close enough, I was already up at summer camp. And then last fall, they weren't really near me. And so this was my first opportunity. And I would like to thank, the incredible photographer, Jake Silko, who has brought me along with him on this little leg of tour as his assistant / driver, and made it possible for me to attend Goosemas because I wasn't going to be able to make the date originally. And it worked out really, really well. So thank you, Jake.
They let you drive? They let you drive in this country, Ryan?
I have my driver's license. I'm old enough. 21. Let's talk about the music.
Yeah, let's talk about the music. How about that?
So, I mean, from the get-go, set one opens with Linus and Lucy, the holiday classic that I, for some reason, thought was too obvious a pick to put on my Fantasy Goose. I hit 2 songs the whole night, but I don't care. Peter's grand piano on display. I would like to take this first opportunity to remind everybody that this is not a baby grand piano. Peter made it very, very clear that this was not a baby grand. No training wheels for the mustache man Handini himself. That's a C7 grand piano that he was playing on stage that he stood on. And
that was so sick.
Very, very, very special moment to see that on stage. And, you hear it. Peter spent a lot of time on that, just like, he spent a lot of time on the clav after he first got it, a lot of time on that organ after he first got it. Just really enjoying the new depth to his piano sound that you don't normally get with the Nord. And so that was really, really cool, really evident from the get-go on Linus and Lucy. You guys have any thoughts on this great holiday standard?
I thought it was a great pick. I wrote down, it's like, how can one not love opening a show with Linus and Lucy? And I thought it was enough. It's enough of a Christmas vibe, but you don't really have like a direct lyric, obviously, any, of course. So I think that's fun. Just the line, the hook, just immediately like gets me dancing. Like anytime I put that song on, it's like, let's go. So it was a perfect opener.
Yeah, and I also do not want to talk about Fantasy Goose tonight.
He is no longer in the top spot.
Thank you. I did have Linus and Lucy as my 1-pointer, but had I waited to make my picks and had seen the festive display and the grand piano, I may have bumped that Linus and Lucy up. Kids, it never pays to make your picks early.
There can be a late injury. There can be a late song injury. We've talked about this.
Yep. Yep.
My picks go in. See, on show day, just a quick sidebar. On show day, what I've been doing so far this year is I wake up, I do my Wordle, and then I do my fantasy picks. You know what? You're in a different time zone than me. I don't wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I wake up.
We're getting off topic here. Can we talk about the show, please?
I wake up every show morning to my phone blowing up with Ryan. I got my picks in. Picks are in.
You know what? I take pride in being organized. Let's talk about Yeti here. Also, I guess kind of a Christmassy reference because
True.
Yeti. But this, blew up the energy after the Linus and Lucy amuse-bouche, if you will. Great guitar solo from Peter. This is where he did do his, rock star on the grand piano stance during a solo, which was great. Just energy ramping up from the get-go. Everyone was dialed in immediately. Nothing out of the box here, but very nice Yeti.
Straightforward.
Yeah, did what Yeti does, right? Like little slappy on the bass and like gets everybody moving, and then Peter does some rock star theatrics, and it brought the crowd in. And I think this is like the first moment actually, and I think we're going to say this a bunch when we're talking about the show, where Goose really kind of did the arena thing.
Did the arena thing.
Yeah, and like it all translated. It worked well in like really small venues, and it worked really well at Mohegan Sun.
Yeah. And then, little slappy, shreddy, if you will.
Yeah.
Then we move into the first 2022 tune of the night in Atlas Dogs. First jammer of the night as well, really. Also first clav appearance of the night, I'd like to note. However minor it was, I did turn to Neal and express my delight that Peter was playing the clav. Wouldn't be the last time. But I really enjoyed seeing Atlas Dogs live. The jam was great. Got into this mellow funk jam with some vintage vibe on the back end, which was great. Nothing too outside the box, as would be a theme for the show for most of it. But that is not a bad thing. I think this show works without a massive 25-minute jam on the level of the Perio Western Sun or San Francisco Wisteria. Like, this was a statement, and from the first notes of the show to the end, they're making that arena statement, and Atlas fit with it.
Yeah, I love this song. Good song. Not too much different from what you said. More Peter on the grand. I had. There was a cool little sort of, they dropped the tempo down and got really sort of patient and quiet for a little moment, which I loved to see. They're taking sort of those risks. We've seen that quite a bit in the first leg, sort of dropping the whole jam out and building it up slowly off of Peter. I also had a note for sure, like a strong Dark Horse tease. I even remember writing you guys and just being like, whoa, I thought it was like the Dark Horse intro, even the new one. But yeah, Atlas Dogs. It's a very fun song.
I thought this was quite a strong jam actually, and I think we will talk about the lack of a 20 to 25 minute jam and what does that mean. But I will say that Atlas Dogs was the first of essentially 6. Arcadia fell a touch short, but there were 6 15+ minute jams. So. This show was not void of jamming. I know there was talk on socials about that, and so I know we'll talk about it a little bit as we go through this. But I really liked this jam. Not the balls to the wall version in Portland. I liked some real nice chill jamming over the last 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. I think you both were alluding to that as well, and I like how, especially with these new songs, Pancakes kind of did the same thing in Louisville, where it had a really nice chill jam before going big. So not all of these songs have to be full-on dance parties full on 20-minute dance parties every time. I'm okay with that. I really enjoyed this version. You know, again, maybe not too far outside of the box, like you were saying, Ryan, but still some really good jamming there. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Well, and I wouldn't even argue. I'd argue, pardon, jumping ahead of you, Neil. I don't even want them raging all the time, right? We want that at least. Like, I want space. I want patience, and that's what we're getting lately. It's just like this is awesome to see, and like you've said, they can pack it into 14, 15-minute songs, create some diversity, but they don't have to spend 25 minutes to do so. And if they want to play songs on a big night like this, let's do it. Hit a couple more tracks.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll add to that is that one thing Goose has been doing lately really well is having very efficient jams. And I think this is a really good example of that, right? Like the San Francisco Wisteria is a good example. I think that, comes in at about 18 minutes. This is like around 15 minutes, right? This one didn't do the things that San Francisco Wisteria did, but it is an example of like a very good, efficient jam. In the moment, through 2 sets at that show, like I was like, that's the jam of the show. So yeah, I think it's fantastic, and it doesn't need to be a 25-minute mind bender. It doesn't. That one definitely was pretty great.
Yep.
Nice transition into Echo. How about it, Ryan? What'd you think of that?
I loved it. Echo is one of my favorite songs. You guys know I do miss the older arrangement, but I do still absolutely love this one. I love that it's more of a jam vehicle now than the older arrangement was, for sure. And this one, didn't really stray too far out of the box, but this one really, really raged, was great. We may not have gotten the Echo of a Rose with, but it was another fantastic 15-minute jam. Really, really solid, really playing to that arena sound, which is like just working. Like it fit. I didn't feel, again, I haven't heard Goose in a theater setting yet, but they felt so at home, and I'm going to say that so many more times when we talk about this show, but they felt so at home in the arena on Saturday. Like, it was phenomenal. What do you guys think of the Echo?
Well, I was saying this earlier when we were talking about it. I think, I like a good high energy Echo. That was that. We've talked about this a bunch. It's almost becoming a meme at this point. I repeat it often enough, but a huge fan of that song. Coming in at the 15-minute mark with a big high energy ending. But the thing that kind of sets this one apart, I think, from others is there's a stretch where Rick and Peter are doing what Rick and Peter do, but the real star of that jam is Ben. And he was absolutely destroying the drums in that song. And that was like the first indication of like things to come in this show, where Ben had a little extra gear at the show. We didn't know yet why, but he had a little something extra in the tank.
Mm-hmm. My notes literally, Spuds kicks up a new beat. The end. I agree totally, Neil. I thought this version was most straightforward. They kind of almost touch on the Portland like intro part of the jam around the 10-minute mark, and you can tell they kind of want to go somewhere else. It's not that space. And there's like 3 minutes where Ben just really is like driving, and they find something, like, again, we know they're moving on to another song. Doesn't really sort of push the idea out there, but yeah, I thought it was good. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, I liked it. It stayed high energy. I agree. Maintained the tempo even through that return to the final chorus versus kind of slowing it down to the more kind of reggae-ish return. Probably my third favorite behind Portland, obviously, and Minneapolis. I really like, but good version. And again, I'm close to 16 minutes here, so I wouldn't call it short and sweet. It had a nice jam to it for sure.
Efficiency. And then the first set closes with a nice pairing of So Ready and Silver Rising. So Ready was great to see live. Both Rick and Peter ripped it up on their solos, and Silver Rising, with the reworked arrangement, so good.
So pretty.
I love this song. It's the closest thing I think we got to a ballad all night. I think it's a bit closer to a ballad than Born is. And I love, Peter's siren synth in this one. It was a great way to end the set, especially after I think everybody thought we were done after So Ready.
Yeah, I remember. Go ahead.
I love this song. It's probably right behind Born for me in terms of the new originals. Now, Dripfield might have something to say about that in my book, but I love Silver Rising. I love the changes that they made. Feel the rush, taste the blood, run my love is the only.
Yeah, the harmonies is sweet.
There will be a full vocal cover coming from Jive Goose.
The Way Out Now, Don't Turn Around, or you'll see the beast that I'll become. I'm pretty sure this is a werewolf song, not a ballad.
There you go.
I said it's the closest thing to a ballad we got all night. So
yeah, I agree. It was there in terms of tempo and vibe. It was pretty much the one, mellow track.
But one thing that we should talk about in this is the 3-part vocals in this song, which I think it's like the first time they've ever done something like this, where Peter and Rick and Jeff each had a vocal part, and it sounded fantastic.
Except Redbird, baby.
But this was different. Like
it's different.
I don't know. There was something about this one where they were each doing their own piece, and I really, really loved it. I don't know. I need to go back and listen to it some more. But man, Jeff can really sing. Ryan.
Yeah. Yes. Ryan. What do you? Let's move on to the second set.
I'm not going to mention anything about it.
Second set. I like it.
Let's move on to the second set here. Okay, opening up with one of my favorite just songs in general, Rockdale. Before we talk about Rockdale, I would like to take the opportunity to shout out Matt Campbell, who I ran into before the show. Really, really nice guy. And thank you for writing a lot of these songs with Rick. Very grateful for it. I know there were a lot of, I saw someone on Twitter today who, was with Matt while they were playing this and with Empress, and, he was loving it. And it's just, really, really cool. So shout out Matt Campbell.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes.
Ryan, before we go into Rockdale, I also want to make another comment about Goose and Arena Rock. So I think Peter was pretty proud that they kept the set breaks, in his words, short tonight. So that break between set 1 and set 2 was only 24 minutes. So
that's pretty short by their standards.
I did hear that comment.
Listen, he has made no 15-minute promises, and that's a solid amount shorter than what Goose set breaks normally are. So I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, he's smart. He doesn't commit to a number. He just says,
"We'll be back."
Short
it's
or
short.
Soon.
Yeah,
short. Yeah, and 40 minutes can be short if you compare it to a 6-hour period. So
it depends on what kind
of. It's all relative.
It did feel short at the show. I'll say that.
Yes, it did. Well, was that the set break where we were in line? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rockdale. This one, I haven't listened to it enough times to see if my what I said to Neal at the show holds up, but it was phenomenal. I think it's one of the best versions they've played to date. Again, disclaimer, lots of hasty ranking happening tonight. I will refine my rankings in the next couple of weeks. But I absolutely loved it. Great sing-along, everybody grooving. Clav really shines here, which I love, translated really well live. And it was just really, really great to hear. Neal, I know you had a count on the number of peaks.
Well, I mean, you and I were vibing hard off each other in this one.
Yes.
I was really excited for this song. I'm always really excited for this song whenever they play it. And I was counting peaks. I'm 99% certain my peak count was wrong, But I think at the time, like, we were like counting them off, and I said, "There's 5 peaks in this jam," and those peaks. You know, what I love about this song is kind of the thing that they do, where there's like dissonance and then peak, dissonance and then peak, and they did it a bunch in this one, and I loved it.
They're crushing it right now. Every version seems to be maybe going just a level higher. So this is just another strong one. It's a good. It's a nice set to opener, especially when you. I don't know if we're ready to move on yet, but Redbird coming in the 2 spot in the set really, I think, helps Rockdale as an opener.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
How did I react when they started Redbird?
Yeah, I mean, again, like, that was where we were really feeding off of each other. There was a massive amount of excitement. There was tweeting going on, videos. I'm like really stoked that actually, man. Yeah, there were other people joining in and kind of tweeting their straight bird and stuff. And yeah, man, boy, was that fun.
No, it. You know what? It was so great. I could feel as if everybody in the room knew how excited. You know, as if everybody in the room was in on the straight burden, you know, everybody singing along. It was incredible. Again, another 15-minute jam. Really, really solid. But, you know, it was just this song now, you know, because of just what, you know, what we've done with it, just has like such a significance to me. And it was so great to see it live in my first show.
Yeah, I the moment they kicked it up, I thought of you guys, and it was super fun. Everybody there, you know, people were reaching out to me and to us, and that's just, you know, what the whole joke was about. But yeah, I mean, the song, you know, you just mentioned people singing it, Ryan. I mean, who knows? One day in an arena or back in a space like that in a couple of years, where the majority of the crowd will be singing a song like that. So it's a cool thing to think about. The song itself, I liked it. I thought it was one of the more unique jams of the night. Like you mentioned, you know, had a little length to it. I put, and even called it that night, there was like sort of a Ted Bird feel to it, where Trevor got like really liquidy and bouncy, sort of like nice jam for him and him to shine around kind of 7 to 9 minute mark. And then they also had this like 90-second maybe period at the end of the jam that was one of the more unique outros, and it just highlights, as we've been saying, sort of these spaces, these like little risks they're willing to take, kind of visit a space, be efficient with it, see if something comes from it. Doesn't have to go long, but it's just different, and it's like, it's patient and beautiful. So I loved it. Love the song too.
Yeah, it speaks to their communication. I think their ability to make those decisions quickly, to get to those places to get to those spaces in the first place, and then to make those decisions so quickly about, you know, whether or not they want to pivot, where they want to head next. The only other thing I would add about this one is the 3-part harmonies just getting more and more dialed in.
Yeah.
So love to hear it. Love to hear it.
It's awesome. Okay, band then moves through Rosewood Heart and the debut of the cover of Cinnamon. Rosewood, solid 11-minute version. Again, really happy to hear Rosewood at my first show. I think the beginning of Cinnamon was Neal's biggest reaction of the night. You know, for someone who was running on 3 hours of sleep and has an injured back, he leapt like 20 feet in the air and like was like screaming Cinnamon. So that was,
I never thought we would get it.
Yeah. You know, the only disappointment in that moment was I didn't end up on the soundboard. Redbird kind of ended in like kind of like a slow like kind of piano thing, and then like that kind of came right in. Or I'm sorry, not Redbird, Cinnamon,
Rosewood.
Rosewood.
Yeah, Rosewood.
Yeah.
My bad.
And like that like started happening, and I was just like, no way, this is even happening. So like I'm screaming to Ryan, and the audience is quiet. Like this is not like the end of a song where everybody's like cheering, like yeah, like so that was pretty interesting. We picked up on it like right away.
You picked up on it. I didn't.
I was stoked for that one, man. I really wanted to hear it. I really love that song. Love their recording of that song, and they delivered too. That was pretty spectacular.
Hey, Neal, this is the track, right? It's the intro where Peter's plucking on the grand, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
That's right.
so that one, like, you guys didn't get to experience that. I'm sure Brian can relate, but I remember they highlighted that, and like having the grand was necessary for that piece because you see Peter
yes.
reaching over with the grand and dun, 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 and that was really cool. Really, really
So
cool.
now I remember as Rosewood was ending, Peter pushed the clav away from
Exactly.
him on the piano so he could flip it open and dampen the strings. So that was really cool. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah, that was a cool moment. Yeah, definitely.
That was great. And yeah, definitely, that's not a song he can't do that with the Nord. So,
Or he would have to sample it, but
yes, but you can't do it as authentically with the Nord.
yeah,
right?
that's true.
So the Rosewood was one of the more standard songs of the night, which is usually not the case for Rosewood. We commented before about how the 3-leg-1 Rosewoods were all over 20 minutes. And so this one was a bit more straightforward, but they love the song. I'm always happy to hear it. I love the song as well. And then Sinnerman, so cool to see Rick's vocals, whether it's this song or Dripfield, Born, so this slew of new songs. Rick's vocals are so strong and confident in all these songs. This Sinnerman probably isn't the easiest song to go out and sing in front of a huge crowd of people. So just amazing work. And I thought the live version came across so much better, in my opinion, than the studio recording. And if I'm honest, I didn't give that studio recording very many listens. I moved on from it rather quickly. But just in the last few days, this has been on my kind of list of songs that I've had on repeat, or groups of songs that I've had on repeat from this show. So hopefully it's something that we do see again. Hopefully Peter can make it work without having the grand.
Yeah, it's good. I'd love to see it. Love to see it live. But
and then
set closer.
Wait, before we move on, one thing I wanted to point out in that one is that in the studio recording, they obviously had like a guest vocalist, female vocalist for Sinnerman, which I think sounded pretty great on the recording. What was really cool about the live version of Sinnerman was Peter and Jeff doing like harmonized backup vocals, which I thought sounded fantastic. Sounded like really amazing live. And then just listened to it on the board for the first time right before we're doing this, and really enjoyed the heck out of it. And so I'm looking forward to like more versions of this too. Set closer.
After Sinnerman ended, I saw Rick turn towards Ben and start doing that like little bounce he does when he's about to count in Empress. And I grabbed Neal and I like started screaming, and then they started the song and I started screaming even louder because Empress is one of my favorite Goose songs. I was so happy that they played it. Neal, I mean, you have a better description of what my reaction.
I think I may have vided you in this one. I was expecting it. You called it before they even played a note. I don't know how you did that, but
again, Rick turns to Ben and starts doing this little like bounce thing.
Yeah,
as he's counting it in.
And cool thing about this version was it was like very piano heavy and not very clav heavy.
No clav.
My memory of it.
No clav.
Yeah, right. And spectacular with that piano. It sounded so good. And then sounds also really good on the boards.
Yeah, and they faked us out a little bit. They went from the jam into that like kind of more Teddy, spacey jam, and then built that back into the first jam again for like another peak, which was really cool. And yeah, it was just it was a great, very standard Empress, like comes in just under 14 minutes, but absolutely loved it. Dancing like a mad person, which I kind of was, but.
Yeah. I think it just bookended a solid set. I mean, on paper, like we said, nothing crazy is jumping out, but in like top to bottom of the show, this is just a set that I would listen to. I could throw this on anytime, front to back. There's no holes, ending with Empress, opening with Rockdale, combining those two songs. You talked about Matt. I'm sure that was super cool for him, and like for them to be able to use those two tracks. Just yeah, more statements, perfect for the setting.
Mm-hmm. And Matt Campbell, somebody said that Matt said that this was the best Empress he's ever heard. Matt, I would urge you to go and listen to 6:15:21.
Oh man,
Plug. Brian,
what were your thoughts on this? Yeah,
nothing really much more to add. Fairly standard and straightforward. High energy set closer. I did note a tease. They teased the divided sky pause.
Yes, okay. Of course.
All right. Well,
again, it's becoming pretty standard.
Oh, so sick! I forgot about that.
I think we're getting to a point where it's it's no longer a tease. It's just like part of the song that happens every time they play.
Now it's going to be what Peter does if he initiates the clap in a different way. How was catching that live, Ryan?
That was just it was great. Everyone was like, everyone was clapping, everyone was dancing. It was great. I think that was the hardest I danced all night.
It's such a fun song live. It's such a fun song.
That's a cool idea, actually, D, that coming out of the divided sky pause tease for Peter to mix up what he does before he goes into the clap. That's actually a really cool idea.
Yeah. it was like jazz hands once.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. He did the jazz hands. That's right. Peter, I know you're listening.
Saturday was just standing there.
So Peter, give us triggers for new signals coming out of Empress.
Do like finger guns.
Yeah. I'm glad that was brought up. It was pretty cool to watch. Like Peter kind of had his arms outstretched and like he was like soaking in the audience. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
It was. And then, of course, we all thought the set was over, but there was one more surprise in store. We had an absolutely incredible proposal from Ben to his girlfriend Sam, who's now his fiancée. And it was just really, really great. Everyone was cheering them on as she came on stage and he got down on one knee. I would like to shout out Ben's shirt as well. When life gives you potatoes, make latkes.
Quality shirt. Yeah, quality shirt.
Congratulations and mazel tov to Ben and Sam.
Yeah, congratulations. Congratulations. It was a touching moment. It was really cool to see him. He kind of like was goading her up there a little bit. Like I think he was saying something like, we're doing it.
Like you can do it. Like, yeah,
this is happening. So cool moment for sure. Probably, I mean, I would have to say without a doubt, my second top, if I was ranking proposals at Goose shows, this is number 2. I mean, this is number 2 on my list. God. Well done by Ben and Sam.
How many are there?
Yeah, that one, there wasn't a dry eye in the house in that one. People were losing their minds. I was really happy in the moment. I might have been near tears. 2 very fantastic people that I've met and really, really enjoy their company. So I'm so happy for them. That's just a spectacular thing. And so glad that, they chose to or Ben chose to share that with everybody because it's really cool. And a lot of people were really stoked about it.
Yeah. All right. Moving into set 3. I want to get Brian's take on this Born opener first. Obviously the third set consisted of the first 3 songs of the upcoming Dripfield album in order. And this was an interesting Born. It didn't have that groove jam that was on the first couple of versions. And for me, just in the arena, that beautiful, beautiful build led by like Rick and Peter on the guitar and the synth, it just seemed to stretch forever. And I walked by at one point after I said hi to our good friend Bruce Robinson. As I was walking back to join Neal on the floor, I walked by Micah Atkin and Sam Ray like hugging and crying during the synth build, and it was just it was a nice moment. But it was just a really, really beautiful rendition. It was, I loved it.
Yes, my favorite of the new songs, like I mentioned. This one, I think, I mean, honestly, I think they cut this a little bit short to fit in everything they wanted to fit in that night, and I'm completely okay with that. I would say that when we compare to the other two versions, that slow build didn't end up being quite as triumphant as the other versions, in my opinion. And then of course they reworked it a little bit, how they brought the vocals in right into the end of that build. But I still so great. It's so great. Was very happy to see it. And I think at that moment I was a touch disappointed with the lack of jam, but by the end of this set, it made sense. It made sense to me, and I was at peace.
It was a necessary sacrifice.
Yeah, and I like you guys said, nothing to note, straightforward. I did go and check the endings of the other two versions. So we had LA and Seattle, and this was the first time that they actually completed the song, like what we heard on the single, where the track cuts out and it almost sounds like we're going into Seekers, what we thought before the track list had come out, to signify, of course, that it's the next song, Hunger Site, which we heard. So there's that one sort of line from Rick, and then it changes, I don't know, keys or whatever. Ryan, you'd be able to sort of obviously explain that better. But yeah, so then we have the trigger for Hunger Site, and it's almost like similar melody, but it just a little different for me. I don't know how to explain it like musically, but it sounds very similar to the Born line.
I love the transition to Hunger Site, and obviously this song hadn't been released as a single, so this was the first time anybody had heard it. I really, really liked it. Thank you to the Great Beyond podcast for tweeting that it was indeed Hunger Site. For all of us who had no idea what song it was, somebody at the show thought I was like a wizard or something, because I had seen on Twitter, and they were like, "What song is this?" I was like, Hunger Site. It's the new one. They were like, how do you know that, man? That's so cool.
Yeah, that might have been me, Ryan.
No.
Hungry Side. It sounds like Hungry Side on the soundboard to me. I don't know about you guys live. I liked it though.
It's fantastic. And another really, really great jam out of this one. I think, the last two songs of the third set, I think definitely were the standout jams of the night. We'll get to my favorite of the night in a second, but this jam was just great. I really, really loved it.
There's a lyrical connection too. I know I mentioned you guys, and before I jump in, Brian, they say, "Is it time to shed our weapons, my friend?" And we know now that Hot Tea is on this album, which for me personally, I was confused with at first. I didn't really understand it in terms of the timeline of the song, but obviously there's a lyrical reference to Hunger Site too, where in Tea they say lay your weapons down. So yeah, just a little interesting aside. What did you think of the debut, Brian?
Loved it. It's so fun to hear these new songs and hearing them in the order they are on the album, and having never heard Hunger Site before. It was very cool to witness that. So again, jealous moment for me of all you guys that were at the show here, because I'm sure that was a really cool moment. And I don't want to feed the haters out there, but I was a bit surprised to hear and read so many people expressing disappointment in this set. I really felt like this was an incredible set. Now, obviously, it was a short set, and with the 3-set show, I tend to put the sets aside when I'm kind of critiquing the shows, and I'm really just looking at the body of music that was played, and this. So I think there's a reason that they did this as its own little, you'd almost call it a mini set maybe. But it works really well, I think, with what they were doing with these new songs off the album. 2 debuts, the 9th and 10th original debuts of the year, and and yeah, this is where I would put in quotes that this was a performance. I mean, this show was a performance.
Yes.
And it was very thoughtful. It's easy, I think, for us, we get caught up in it ourselves with critiquing song selection and set list construction and things like that.
What?
And I think sometimes that's warranted. But this was a case where you can just see the thoughtfulness and hear the thoughtful approach to this performance. And set 3 was that was the main big piece of the night, was Born, Hunger Sight, and Dripfield being delivered for the first time. So yeah, loved it. Dripfield I loved more. And another thing that we were talking about that
Dripfield. Before we talk
about
Dripfield,
I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead and finish up Hunger Sight thoughts.
Just about your point about, how much thought was going into, what songs they played at this show. I had the awesome opportunity to briefly chat with Jeff after the show, and he mentioned how he was actually really thankful, and I think the rest of the band shares his sentiment that the show got postponed to February because, in December they were looking at probably playing a show of the hits. And while that is nowhere near a bad thing, it getting postponed to February and them getting, that first leg of the tour in to work on these songs and debut them live, they were able to incorporate a lot more of their fresher material in and give us a much more special night, and I would never complain about a show where they walk out and play a set that reads, Wisteria, Arcadia, Rosewood, Hot Tea, but also seeing a third set that reads Born, Hunger Sight, Dripfield. The band's putting themselves out there. Mm-hmm. They're consciously choosing to do that. Like, they still could have gone out and played Wisteria, Arcadia, Rosewood, Hot Tea, but they didn't. They're taking the chance on especially 2 songs that have never been played live before. The Dripfield single was only released 4 or 5 days before the show. And I think it went perfectly. Any more thoughts on that before we talk about Dripfield?
One more from me. Sorry. So just because these songs haven't been played before, that doesn't automatically make them not hits or bangers.
Exactly.
Right? I think sometimes people get too caught up in those words. I mean, what are the hits with this band? What are the bang? You know what I mean? Is Rosewood Heart a banger? Most of the time, yeah. So look, this show had some hits for me, and I think that this is going to end up being a show that gets a lot of replay, certainly for me. And kind of like you were mentioning earlier, this is a show. These are sets, and this is a show that you throw on. And I'm not skipping many tracks here when I'm re-listening to that, and that's really cool because, admittedly, I spend probably far too much time deep in various Jam of the Year playlists, and I'm listening to jams so much. I really like having shows like this where I can, for someone like me, I'll put on this show and it holds my attention, and I really enjoy kind of listening to the whole performance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll just say this one thing about Hunger Sight before we move on. I love Born too. I hadn't spoken about Born yet. And I thought, anytime they've performed this song, it's always been wonderful. And, that was obviously my first time seeing it, and I absolutely was completely sucked in. And Hunger Sight was kind of like a setup for what was to come, like a table setter. And in terms of like song selection, I'm sure like if you don't like absolutely devour Goose, like, the 4 of us do, that must have been like a weird set to watch, right? Like, you probably weren't really familiar with any of those songs, but Hunger Sight really set the table for what was to come. And And it was the perfect choice of song. There was no better song to play in that moment.
Yeah. Why don't you start us off with Drip Field?
Oh,
Drip.
For me, I mean, I was like texting all you guys about this, like as it was happening.
And you and I were like grabbing each other and being like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, like I just couldn't believe it. The low end was so loud at this point. I alluded to that earlier when we started recording it. Like, I was like, "Am I in a rave right now?" Like, it was so loud. Like every part of my body was vibrating, and it sounded so incredible. And like that vibe stayed throughout the song. I was absolutely blown away by this one. I'll kind of hold my summative thoughts till like you guys kind of weigh in on this one, because I do have some thoughts about it, but I really want to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, Dripfield translated live so well. As you mentioned, the drums were just absolutely booming. Like the building seemed to be shaking. Crowd was just dialed in. To me, the jam had a similar momentum to the San Francisco Wisteria. Very, very, very Tom-led. Very, like, Spuds stepping up, Jeff stepping up, really pushing it forward. Obviously didn't have the same evil tinge as the San Francisco Wisteria, but I think this still is going to end up placing high on my Jam of the Year playlist, at least for now. They just get into such a cool groove. Rick and Peter were also like standing on stage, like playing off each other. The dual guitar attack, as we mentioned in the leg one recap, their guitar interplay has been so good so far in 2022. And it was just phenomenal. And then there's that part towards the end where the drums fade out. And there's that bit of space, and then they just come back in like a hammer for the end. And it was unbelievable. It was in awe.
Yeah, this was a rowdy one to watch live. I recall specific moments where they were showing the crowd and just the intro with the drums and like you said, Neal, great point. 45 minutes of music that a majority of the people in that audience had never heard those songs. A casual fan might not have heard Born Yet. And then the other two, of course. I think this song, on the studio cut, but live's got you got sort of Peter Gabriel-ish, Tears for Fears, like love it, sort of 80s feel, and then sort of a rave-like beat, and it's gonna be, I think, one of the songs of the year. I was telling you guys, I can't wait to hear this song at Red Rocks. I can already just like picture it going insane. Mm-hmm. Wisteria-like jam, like you said, Ryan, spot on. Tom's, a lot of Ben. Highlight MVP of the night for sure. 100%. Why not lead one more jam? So, Brian, what do you think of this one? This was just a beast, huh?
Yeah, I love it. Had this on repeat when the single dropped for a number of days. There's like a primal energy to this song, and that's what I was really hoping would come across when they played it live, and it definitely did. It's not surprising at all that it did. So, and I agree with Ryan. I mean, it's a great jam. I'll need some time for all this stuff to sink in.
Brian's very careful about his hasty ranking.
Yeah. I'm not known to be a hasty ranker. I do rank the show very high and as I was sitting here with Kevin at my place and we were watching it, when it's funny because it ended and then we immediately just kind of kept partying and threw the Twitch replay on. And I think we ended up watching all of set 3 like 2 more times. Went back to Silver Rising, went back to Cinnamon. So yeah, we loved it, having a great time. It like I said, just, I think we also mentioned that night, kind of, we knew the night was wrapping up. And so, there were a few more jokes about, bangers, and yeah, so we were throwing around #primal banger on this. Just so yeah, just it's going to be a monster. This monster first version. So yeah, I loved it. As I listen back, I kind of felt like the very end felt just a touch awkward to me, and I'm sure that's either just my ears or being the first time played, and I'm not quite sure what might have happened, but it kind of felt like it was just fading. It was very nicely fading almost all the way out, and then real briefly kind of built back into one of the main themes, and then I felt like it rather abruptly ended after that. So I kind of wondered, had they just faded it out, would that have sounded nice, or it didn't come back enough for a big triumphant, crushing ending. So I kind of felt like that fade, really was sounding cool to me. So, but anyway, that's one tiny critique of an otherwise just monster version of Dripfield.
And I'm excited to see where this song goes in successive plays.
For sure. So final thoughts like on Dripfield from me, this was the essence of like, I made one tweet that night, which I said like Goose's sound translates to the arena. And this song encapsulates that, I think, perfectly. There was one point where I turned to Ryan and I was like, this sounds like Eminence Front. Yeah. And I don't know if it actually did sound like Eminence Front at one point, but what it did do was fill an arena like a song like Eminence Front does, right? Like they play that stuff like before, like basketball games, right? Like that like fires up a crowd. And like the energy in the building at that point was like similar to like how you would expect that a song like Eminence Front to hit a crowd like that. And yeah, the energy was outrageous in this tune. And like, I don't know if that comes across in the recording. I don't know, but this one is going to be a huge, huge song for a long, long time. It has to be. So yeah, what a spectacular tune.
Yeah. And then, during the encore break, Neal, I think I said to you, like, there's only one song they can come out and encore with at this point. And I know, like, the written set list said Tumble, but I don't think there was a lot of doubt in a lot of people's minds. Like, I think Arcadia was the pick here. I think it's arguably the quintessential Goose song. And there's no such thing as a bad version of Arcadia, or a subpar version of Arcadia. Got another great dose of clav in this one. And then Peter hopping on the piano mid-jam, got into a great space. And then, much to my absolute joy, right as I was expecting them to tear into that final peak, Rick brought it down to that slow ending that we only heard once before last summer, Legend Valley, and then proceeded to do exactly what I wished they had done at Legend Valley, which was, kind of enjoy that space on the slow ending for a little bit, and then just build it and ramp it back into that searing normal Arcadia ending. And it was the perfect way to end the show. And I just realized I was so excited to talk about the slow ending that I completely forgot to mention how the crowd reacted to Arcadia being played. This was the peak of the energy all night. Felt like everybody was singing along, at least to the first verse. Like, it was just unbelievable. It was electric.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I was not expecting Arcadia.
You weren't?
After the Ben and Sam proposal, I was really feeling a shamalama ding dong, maybe even to a hot, hot, hot to close things out. But
in quintessential Goose fashion.
But I'll settle for the Arcadia.
Yeah, for sure. You bring up a really good point, though, Daniel. Like there was no quintessential bar Goose this night, right? Like, this was like Goose, like coming out and like saying, like, this is what we do in an arena, and I think we all can agree that setlist construction was very different this night, right? And there were no goofy covers or anything like that, and I think that made this night pretty special.
Yeah. Definitely.
Very
You
special.
guys, any thoughts on the Arcadia Jam? Slow
Well,
ending.
slow ending was good. It was, admittedly, I think I was, after what had just happened before my attention to Arcadia was, it was a proper ending. It was no Shamalama Ding Dong, unfortunately, but you know,
Shout out
Arcadia,
to Paige Caruso. You'll get your Shamalama.
yeah, no, it was great. It was a perfect. I thought it was a wonderful way to end the night as well, Ryan. Just in
Mhm.
terms of set list and yeah, energy. Seeing it live, I'm sure for the first time for you, it's like that's a song that I'm singing at the top of my lungs, and
I
I
mean,
love it. So
I sang every song at the top of my lungs, but
I can imagine.
yes. Yeah, it was amazing. Again, perfect way to wrap up a show. And final thoughts on Goosemas and my first experience seeing Goose live. Again, I'll have more to say on the arena comparison in our second half of Winter Tour recap in a few weeks after I've seen them in a theater. But to me, it was just, as we keep saying, as we've said many times in this episode, their sound translates to arena. I didn't really doubt it, but I was just blown away by how at home they sounded. And also in the arena, the light show. Shout out to Andrew Getty, who absolutely killed it. He had like Christmas trees and incorporated into the light rig, and also like just huge expanded rig. And also a huge shout out to him because he did the whole third set with a massive migraine, and he absolutely continued to kill it. So Getty, thank you for pushing through and delivering us an absolutely incredible light show. It was amazing, and to the rest of the Goose crew who got them there, it's just an absolutely incredible night. And I look forward to many more Goose shows in the future. And I said it in my blog post about the show, but I came to a realization during Arcadia that decades from now, I will be taking my children to see Goose. And it was just a really special moment for me. So yeah, what were your guys' final thoughts on the show?
So my final thoughts are, and one, just to reiterate from earlier, I felt like this was a true performance. They crushed everything. I mean, it was a very clean show in terms of their execution and the execution of the songs. Everything was played really well. And again, 6 15+ minute jams, nothing, no 20 25 minute monsters, but I don't think that necessarily detracts from the show. And just a couple really quick stats. So again, I'm not necessarily breaking this down into sets. I'm just looking at the overall kind of body of music from the night. So 187 minutes of was the total time, and the longest show of leg one was Louisville at 169 minutes. So only 18 minutes longer, even with the three sets. And so they played 15 songs. Three other shows actually from leg one had 15 songs, and the next longest of those shows with 15 songs was 164 minutes. So I only point that out because we talk about a lack of those monster jams, but they really made the most out of only playing 15 songs over the course of over 3 hours of music. So definitely a lot of good music here, a lot of good jams, and yeah, this is slotted in at the top of my show rankings so far.
I think
Yeah,
so.
super fun show. Not too much different. Yeah, great night, front to back, statement performance. Really happy for the band, and everybody that, you know, put the time and energy into making this happen. Community, super excited for everybody. I can't wait to see everybody over the next couple of weeks and months and throughout the year. And um, yeah, just fucking stoked for you, Ryan. That was awesome. It'll be fun to, like you said, twist it, right? Like you got their biggest show space-wise to date. for your first, and then the perspective shift that it's going to occur. So I've seen a show at 9:30. I think you're going to have a blast the next 2 nights, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, my thoughts on it were that second set was like one of the most perfectly crafted sets I think I've heard in a really, really long time. Like they really thought hard about every single set of this show. There were no throwaway songs at all. And I think Brian said it earlier, like the everything was just played super well. And I enjoyed every bit of that show. There was no point where I was like, oh, I'm going to go grab a beer or like go to the bathroom or anything like that. That second set, like I said, was like perfect. That third set was like a real like hardcore Goose fans kind of set. And I think in time, folks are going to really come to appreciate that set because I don't think we're going to get many sets like that going forward. I hope we do. But I don't know if you're going to get that continuous thread of music like you did in that set. I had an amazing time at that show, despite being cripplingly tired, having only slept 3 hours the night before, trying to make it to this show from Florida. It was an amazing time. And then my other thought about this show was, and I think this is like what Goosemas is, and this doesn't translate in the recordings or anything like that, is that it's such a celebration. There's all these people getting into the space together, and there were so many people who knew each other there. And there were like hugs and high fives going around like everywhere. And that energy just kind of added to the whole entire experience. Like, I don't know how many people I said hi to and hugged at that show. I actually am kind of, in retrospect, shocked by the amount of people that I needed to go see and find. And I still didn't see all the people I wanted to see. And that's the first time at a Goose show that like there were like a handful of people that I really wanted to go and see at the show that I didn't find. But at the same time, there was still that huge community feel. I think that's something that's, I don't know if it's unique to Goose, but it's a big part of like the Goose experience. There is a core of fans that really love this band, and they're everywhere that they play. And so I was so happy to see so many people at that show.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, we posted on Twitter earlier asking some people to share their favorite moments of the show, whether they were there or not. So welcome to the inaugural Always Almost There mailbag segment.
Nice.
Brian, would you like to kick us off? Pick a tweet.
Okay, so now I know that... So Robert Hunter Hurst Helmsley. I feel like there should be a third or a fourth after that.
At JBello103.
JBello103. Thank you, Ryan. And I'm quoting now. Loved hearing Born, Hunger Strike, Dripfield as the third set. Thought it was pretty brave on their part too. Easily could have just jammed out a couple of the hits and called it a night. Shows how confident they are with their new stuff and the crazy energy of the entire night. So yeah, that sums up, I think, a lot of our thoughts and a lot of things that we said tonight. So I think that was an excellent observation and contribution to the thread from Robert Hunter Hurst Helmsley. Thank you, sir.
The third.
We've got a good one. We've got a good one coming in from Juzzle the Wise @_Juzzle.
What up, Juzzle?
That's with a J.
Yes.
That's with a J. Born, the Rich and Peter little interplay they had for a few minutes. Soft and sweet and so damn good. That's a great way to describe it. It's no soft bed of piano, but very, very good descriptor. And I look forward to, as we mentioned, seeing how that continues to evolve over time.
Straight jazzin'.
Jizzle. I had to give a shout out to my boy Jeremy Fink at Minturn Mile, and he shared a little clip of Redbird, the chorus with the harmonies and a couple of my tots. Shout out to the Todd's Goose Tots, little group chat, and they were having fun, just straight up, as this says by the hashtag, Redbird with the people in the know, straight burden.
All always straight.
That's that is actually some quality burden too. So props to those guys for.
Yeah, these guys will burden hard.
Shout out to Jeremy Fink.
I'm actually watching that tweet right now. Yeah. Well, I was going to do one, which was like my own, but I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to do at B_Done, a friend of many on this podcast, and someone who I actually wanted to meet at the show, which like kind of follows like this thread, and I didn't get a chance to find him. I saw him from afar at one point, but I never made it to him. But he shouted out meeting so many great people: Ryan Storm, Goose Times, Jay Silko, Greg Knight Music, Ben Jeff, and Trevor at 4 a.m. Which follows what I was saying earlier. There's just such a great community out there at these shows. And then, of course, my tweet, which was seeing Ryan Storm lose his shit at the start of Empress. That was probably the greatest thing I think I've ever seen at a live performance of anything.
Yeah, and I thank you everybody for listening to this recap. Such an incredible show for the band. Such an incredible show for the fans. Really, really grateful that I was able to be there for my first show. Looking forward to many, many more. We'll be back in a few weeks with our recap of the second leg of Winter Tour. Really looking forward to how the band continues to expand over that time. Anyone else got anything else? I think.
Yeah, super stoked. I after this Goosemas show, now we just get more shows straight away.
Yeah.
So yeah, super stoked. Hopefully we get some official streams. If we don't, hopefully we get some more awesome high quality fan streams. So super stoked. Can't wait for tomorrow already. Much love to Kev.
Much love to Kev.
Miss you, bud.
Much love to
Ryan, you'll be in DC, and then what else?
And so I will be DC and Charlotte, and then next week Royal Oak and Cleveland.
Nice. And I will be in Philly, so we hope to see some of you out there.
Heck yeah.
Right on.
All right. Thank you all for listening to this episode of Always Almost There. See you out there on tour. Hope you have a fantastic day.
Peace.
Peace.
Take care, folks.